Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay, Dr. Ann. How
Hi.
are you?
I am too blessed to complain, Casey. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so great to meet you, and then thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course, of course. You're in DC,
Metro DC. I'm between Baltimore and DC.
between Baltimore and DC. Okay. I have a client who lives in Reston, Virginia, so kind of in that area, but works in kind of the DC metro area.
Yeah, I think Reston is another planned community. I live right outside of one.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. You guys are getting that storm next week, right?
Yes, this
Oh
week,
my gosh. Is it this
Saturday
week?
into Sunday.
Saturday,
Yeah,
Sunday. It looks like mega cold.
I'm telling you, it looks horrific.
Oh my gosh.
Fortunately, we have two fireplaces and a generator.
Oh, good.
So,
Yeah, you might need that generator.
yeah, my
Most,
generator's solar powered, but it's something.
yeah, no, that's great. So I live in the suburb of Salt Lake City. We
Okay.
we hosted the 2002 Winter Olympics. We're hosting the
Uh-huh.
2034 Winter Olympics. Guess how much snow our city has gotten this year?
1 inch.
Point 0.1 inch. Pensacola, Florida has gotten more snow than Salt Lake City, Utah in 2025,
Oh my
2026.
gosh. Pensacola, Florida?
Pensacola, Florida has gotten zero point 0.3 inches of snow, and we've gotten zero point 0.1.
Wow.
I'm
Times
no
are changing.
not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. I'm just saying, a little
I
weird.
get it.
Oh, that's awesome. I have your introduction. Thank you so much for sending that. At the end of the introduction, I normally just try to say, like, you can find Dr. Ann somewhere. I'll ask you at the end of the episode also, so you have a
Okay.
second chance. But just for the introduction, which website do you want me to send people to? I know they both link to the same place, but do you
Yeah.
have a preference?
Yes. PTR for Prevent, Treat, Reverse. PTR Reset.com.
Perfect. And that will link to the patient.
Yeah, they both go to the
Yeah,
same one.
perfect.
I
Okay.
merged them.
I'll
And
use
it's
the. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I have two computers. The one that is stronger as far as the screen is where I have my webcam. So now I'm looking at the webcam. So when I'm talking to you, I'm looking at the different one. But when I do the podcast, I'll be looking at the webcam. So it would look more natural.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. No worries. And yeah, I'll just say the PTRreset.com. Like I said in my email, I know you're more kind of like on the plant-based nutrition side of things. You're going to be talking to
Mhm.
a lot of people that are on the carnivore side of things. So
Mhm.
I'll let you kind of handle things the way you want. We can address some of those things, or we can just talk about the 99% of things we all just agree with as far as like processed foods and that kind of thing. So
That sounds
we
fine. I mean, I actually
yeah,
got a little bit together as far as carnivores. A lot of people don't understand that when they cook meat and other things, so they can create these, they're called AGEs that can increase the risk of Alzheimer's, diabetes, and cancer. So I'll just briefly touch on that, but that's something
of
that's
course.
significant to them
Yeah,
because
of
nobody wants
course.
that.
No, nobody wants that. No, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know how much you know about the carnivore space, but like we live in a space where people like almost celebrate having high LDL cholesterol, for example.
Yeah.
It's an interesting kind of sphere and space. But anyway, I'm so excited to chat with you today. I'll definitely be asking you kind of like how you make you are still vegetarian, is that correct?
I am a vegetarian.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would love to ask you how you can help other vegetarians listening, how to get protein, how to combine things,
Okay.
and things like that. We had a
Certainly.
vegan on our show a few months ago who's been hardcore vegan for 30 years and is making it
Mhm.
work great and is super healthy. So, love having those conversations to help everybody out there. So,
Thank
be
you.
awesome.
And I heard you've done 800 podcasts. When did you start?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I guess you guys have Lifetime Fitness in your area. My wife and I used to work for Lifetime Fitness. The pandemic shut us down. They put us on unemployment. So we started our business in 2020. And we were just kind of getting started with a lot of our clients and didn't have as many. So I
Mhm.
started the podcast in October of 2020 and just got in the cadence of doing 3 episodes a week and some
Uh-huh.
bonus episodes on the weekend. And so I've been able to maintain that cadence all the way through. So if you do
Wow.
3 or 4 episodes a week for a few years, you build up a lot. So yeah, we're in the 900s right now, and it's been
That's
really
incredible.
fun. I've gotten to talk to lots of amazing people like yourself, so it's
Oh,
been pretty
thank you
cool.
so much.
Awesome. Okay,
Oh,
so what
what,
are? Oh, go ahead.
Casey, one thing before we start, since I'm going to be looking at the webcam, if there are any facial expressions that I would have caught on to that you're trying to tell me something, I'm not going to see. So if you would just verbally say, oh, by the way, or something.
Good call. Yeah, that's a good call. I'll do my best to keep that in mind. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
This episode will release, I want to say, in like 3 or 4 weeks, but I will have everything done today. So all the editing and processing and all that stuff will be done. The show notes will be done. I'll have everything linked up the way you want. Like I said earlier, I'll leave space in this conversation to have you say where you want people to go to find you and connect with you in your work. So you can use that to promote anything, your website, any
Okay.
programs, all that other stuff. You'll have plenty of space to be able to do that. But then I will send you everything today. So as soon as I'm done with it, I'll send it
Mm-hmm.
to you. You'll have it. And just know when you get it, it's yours. You can do whatever you like with it whenever you want. If it serves as some content that you want to use for something, go for it. You can edit
I
things.
appreciate it. And I was going to ask you, I use Opus clips, and I can have my VA upload it, make a lot of clips to go on different social media
Go
videos.
for it.
But I want to be able to link back to your podcast because I want people to know about you. So if you would I'm going to hold on that because that may benefit me, but it's not going to benefit you. I have like social media, like 20,000 people. So I would rather wait till I can say, this is the link. You can link to a show, and that would help you.
That's incredibly kind. That's not necessary, but it's incredibly kind. If it benefits you in any way, you don't need to worry about whether it benefits us or not. But yes, when I send you the email, I'll send you the date that it releases, and I'll also send you the link for the show where people can access it. And
Great.
then it will be also available on all the podcast hosts and wherever people want to listen, like Spotify or Apple or whatever. So
Perfect.
yeah.
That sounds good.
But thank you. That's very kind. Like I said, it's not necessary, but it's very kind. The raw Zoom, I'll send you the whole thing. So it'll send you a link for the Zoom. You can download it. You can use the speaker view or the gallery view. And then, yeah, as many clips as you want to
Oh,
make,
that's
however you want to
great.
edit it,
Okay,
go
that's
for it.
good. I appreciate that.
You're kind enough to appear on our show. You can have as much of the content as you like. So we
That's so
really
nice of
appreciate it.
you. Thank you.
Really, really appreciate it. Awesome. Like I said, I've got your introduction here, so I can kick us on. The music will play on my end for about 30 seconds, so it'll just be silence on your end. I'll fade it down. I'll unmute myself. I will get you introduced and unmute you, and we can go from there.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Ann Hester, MD, is a CNN featured health expert, syndicated columnist, and author who is among a rare group of physicians who are board certified in lifestyle medicine. Double board certified in internal medicine and lifestyle medicine, Dr. Hester brings more than 3 decades of clinical experience to her work, teaching evidence based strategies that help people prevent, treat, and reverse many common chronic diseases. Dr. Hester is the creator of PTR Reset framework, which stands for Prevent, Treat, and Reverse, which translates lifestyle medicine science into practical, sustainable actions. She is also the founder of PTRReset.com, which is an on demand health education platform offering courses led by trusted medical and wellness experts. Her mission is to empower individuals with clear, science grounded tools to take control of their health and vitality. You can find Dr. Ann Hester on her website at ptrreset.com. Dr. Ann Hester, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you so very much.
I'm so glad that we connected. You talk about so many important things, and we're so excited to host you on our show. I think lifestyle medicine is so underappreciated in today's day and age,
It
and
is.
can do so many things for health and wellness. So I did want to start with hearing a little bit about your background. How did you get into this? I believe you were, kind of traditionally trained in
Mhm.
medicine. What made you want to pursue lifestyle medicine as your career?
Well, I am an internist by training, and I spent about 3 decades in internal medicine. Most of the time I spent as a hospitalist or a hospital-based physician. So I would admit people, take care of them in the hospital, send them back to their doctors. I cannot tell you how many cases of diseases that I saw that were preventable, treatable, or reversible. And I watched over and over and over as so many people succumbed to these conditions. And I just felt I needed to do something more than, okay, you have the disease, let me give you the pills and send you home. And I decided to create a platform. And I wanted to create a platform where different medical professionals could explain conditions in very basic terms, little bite-sized nuggets, so people could understand this is the condition I have, this is what I could do to potentially reverse it, treat it, this is what the doctor's saying to me. And so I hired various doctors for this platform, and I hired one doctor who was a lifestyle medicine doctor. Now, I had never heard of that field at all. And as I sat and I recorded her, my jaw just dropped. I was thinking, how is it that I've been a physician for decades and I had no idea about all this information? The American Medical Association back in 2017 put out a resolution saying you doctors need to learn lifestyle medicine and apply it because the scientific data is that profound. And as I listened to her, I decided I wanted to pick that up. I went and I did the formal training and I sat for the boards and I became lifestyle medicine board certified too. But now it's in over 50 countries and it is spreading like a wildfire because people are tired of taking drug side effects. They don't want the medical conditions, which is absolutely understandable. But people are starting to say, enough is enough. Instead of giving me the pills, a Band-Aid, which may prolong my life, what can you do to prevent me from getting it? Or what can I do to potentially reverse it naturally? So that's how I got into lifestyle medicine.
Amazing. Okay, I have a few questions from what you just said. I think all of that's incredible. First of all, for bums like me, can you tell us what an internist is and what a hospitalist is?
Yes. If your kid gets sick, you take your child to see a pediatrician. If your wife is pregnant, you take her to see an OBGYN. But adults, they go to see mainly internal medicine doctors who are internists. Family practitioners, they see everybody. Internal medicine doctors, they are the primary care doctor for most adults when they get sick. I have bronchitis, or I have chest pain, I have whatever else. The primary care doctor is likely going to be an internal medicine doctor, AKA an internist.
Got it. Okay.
And a hospitalist is a hospital-based physician. Most hospitalists are internal medicine specialists, but we've gotten to the point that office doctors, they just can't do it all. And so you may notice when you go to the emergency room, you may be admitted by a doctor who is not your own because they can't stay up all night long and then be expected to see patients the next day. And so there are often different shifts of hospital-based doctors or hospitalists. And we admit people from the emergency room, we take care of them, and we discharge them. We send the discharge summary back to the primary care doctor so the doctor knows the tests and the procedures and all the things that happen. And so we hand the patients back off once they leave the hospital. And the primary care doctors hand the patients off to us when the patients are so sick they need to go to the hospital because it's hard to keep up with everything from depression to a rash behind the ears to severe pneumonia. You need to be on a ventilator. It's hard to do it all. And so hospital-based doctors, hospitalists, they're experts in very sick patients.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for defining that. You mentioned different shifts. Are those shifts just absolutely brutal for a hospitalist?
Well, they can be. It depends on where you go. Sometimes they have it. The typical model is like 12-hour shifts, 7 on, 7 off. The good thing is every week you get a vacation. Every other week you get a vacation. But the week that you're on, it may be brutal.
Yeah,
And
got
then
it.
there's some morning shifts at like 7A to 7P, and some people are nocturnists. They go on from 7P to 7A. So there's a doctor in the house, the hospital, we call it in-house, 24/7.
Got it. Okay. I think I would spend my week off just dreading my week on or something like that, just like wasted.
It got to be that way at times. It really did.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's amazing. Okay. I started asking this question. It's one of my favorite questions to ask. Somebody brought this to my attention, and they were in emergency care. And I've tried to ask everybody, especially in emergency care, but also most doctors, like this same question. When I think of emergency care, I think of a bullet wound or a car wreck or somebody clobbered me as I'm riding my bicycle with their truck or something like that, like an emergency. What I hear actually happens in the emergency room if the answer that I get from people that work there and people that have worked in hospitals like yourself, the answer is vastly different. So you've already mentioned chronic disease and the prevalence of chronic disease. In your opinion, based on what you see, what you have seen day to day, what percentage of cases that you kind of treat come from chronic disease versus acute care?
Overwhelming majority are chronic. So I was a hospitalist for a long time. I've left clinical medicine. I'm more focused on lifestyle medicine. But like out of the 30 years I practiced, most of it was in a hospital sort of setting. And so you're talking about trauma care. So a car wreck is trauma. Somebody shoots you, that's trauma. And so most hospitals, they're not level 3 trauma units. They can't take care of a gunshot wound. And so they may stabilize you, but if the ambulance is close enough to a trauma center, that's where you're going to go. But if you have chest pain, you call 911, you go to a regular ER. If you have stroke symptoms, 911, regular ER. The vast majority of emergency rooms are just regular emergency rooms. And so we would admit patients with chest pain, stroke symptoms, pneumonia, you name it, severe nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, people who are having problems with medications, side effects, GI bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, rectal bleeding, vomiting up blood. So the overwhelming majority of people are chronic. Most diseases, the leading causes of death are chronic medical diseases. They're not acute. Heart disease is the leading cause. Some of the other leading causes include like stroke, diabetes, infectious diseases. But the overwhelming majority of people who pass away do so because of something chronic and smoldering. Not all of a sudden you're in a fatal car wreck.
Yeah, got it. It's so striking to me that even in the emergency room, people tell me it's like 85 to 90% of what they're seeing coming through their doors is chronic related, not what most of us would think of as like emergency
Yeah.
care. That's just so striking. And you mentioned the American Medical Association and them saying, people need to learn this and it's catching on and, 50 countries are practicing this. That's all amazing news. I'm grateful to hear that. I'm still assuming that if I were to sample 100 doctors, maybe 98 of them would not understand what lifestyle medicine was. Is that the case to you, or is this really catching on much faster than I would assume?
The last time I checked, I'm one of fewer than 0.4% of US physicians and fewer than 0.1% of global physicians board certified in lifestyle medicine.
Wow.
So doctors may have heard about it, but as far as going back, going through the training to become lifestyle medicine board certified, going through the conferences and the videos and all of these things to get the knowledge base to sit for the exam and pass it, only a very small minority of US physicians are board certified in lifestyle medicine.
Wow, that's
Hopefully
such a
that will
small
change in the
percentage.
future, but
We
that's where
certainly
we
hope
are.
so. Wow, that's crazy. How did we get here? As you understand kind of the history a little bit of the medical system, and how did we get to this place that a basic understanding of things that we can do in our own lifestyle, choices we can make, not necessarily pharmacological solutions, which have their place, obviously. How did we get to this place we are today, where you are in the 0.4% here in this country of doctors that are certified in this or know anything about this?
Well, you've heard about different sorts of medicine, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, acupuncture, all of these alternative things. We used to be of the mindset, okay, you have to go to medical school, get this 4-year degree, do your residency, and then you're a real doctor and you can do things. That's just not the case. There are different things that we can do. Let me give you an example. So you've heard of Prozac and Paxil and all of those drugs. They're in the class of drugs called SSRIs. And basically that means selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Well, we know that chicken breasts have an amino acid called tryptophan, and that is like a building block for serotonin. We know that your gut microbiome is very heavily involved in your serotonin levels. And we know that when we do things or diet and exercise, all these things that impact our minds, those things don't really cost anything. Something else, chronic stress. Stress relief is one of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. So cortisol is great when you're running from a tiger, but most of us don't live there. But when you turn on the cortisol and it doesn't turn back off after you outrun the tiger, then you're in this chronic state of a high cortisol level. That increases inflammation in the body. That increases your risk of heart attacks, multiple other conditions. And we know that chronic stress has an impact on the brain, physical impact on the brain, other than feeling stressed. For instance, an area of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's like the CEO of your brain. Your higher functioning is there. When you're chronically stressed, the volume goes down, it shrinks. The hippocampus is a part of your brain that deals with your memory. When you're chronically stressed, that shrinks. I mean, MRIs can see the volume has gone down. Brain shrinkage because of stress. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala that deals with emotions, anxiety, and so forth. That blossoms. And so you're chronically stressed, your anxiety level, all those things, they can go out up the roof because that part of your brain gets bigger. So just imagine an MRI on day one when everything is chilly willy. A year later, you've been under chronic stress, and they do another MRI. Important parts of your brain are smaller, and the parts that make you overreact and very anxious, that has grown. And so we now know that there are a lot of things completely outside of a pill that can have a profound impact on your life. Just imagine what it would do to you if over a year's time you've lost significant memory because of stress. And we know how we can decrease stress. Everything from sleeping appropriately, exercise decreases stress. There's even this phenomenon called tapping that is incredible and is absolutely free. Basically, it's literally tapping the different parts of the head that you tap, underneath the eye here and here. They took tapping to Rwanda, where people saw their parents macheted, and they took them through a detailed program. And after the program, a lot of them no longer had PTSD. They did the same thing to some veterans diagnosed with PTSD. I think 47% of them, after completing the program, I mean tapping, absolutely free, 47% no longer met the clinical criteria for having PTSD.
Wow.
And so we know that there is so much more to the picture than this is the anatomy, this is the physiology or how it works. Okay, this is the disease. Here's the pill or here's the surgery. Now we are gaining such a tremendous understanding about how the body works. You don't just have one eye, you have two eyes, you have a brain, you have fingers, and all the fingers aren't the same. They can do different things. It's the same way with health. All of these different things work together to fit into the piece of the puzzle. And fortunately, a lot of these things are absolutely free. But now we're learning what they are, and we're able to teach people. We even know how to put type 2 diabetes into remission in a lot of people. We know how to decrease the risk of multiple forms of cancer, decrease the risk that it returns, decrease the risk. There's one study that showed a whole food plant-based diet is the only diet that we know that can actually reverse heart disease to an extent. Now, I don't mean if you have 99% blockage and you follow this diet, your coronary arteries, the arteries that feed the heart are going to be clean. But the study showed that you took the people day one, and one group followed the standard of care, the regular medications, the statins, and so forth. And the other group was intense in lifestyle medicine. Fast forward in the future, they took those same people, they actually did a cardiac catheterization to see the extent of blockage both times. The group that followed the whole food plant-based diet, they had less disease than they had to begin with. The group that followed the regular medical diet with all of these drugs and so forth, they had more disease. And so again, this is absolutely free. And so it's really important to understand The light bulb is going off. The science is coming in saying, hey, these things work. But I do encourage people, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just giving information. Always talk to your doctor. Never stop any drugs on your own. Work with your doctor. You can likely taper off a lot of things once you make those significant changes.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so cool that you talked about reversing type 2 diabetes, which again, most doctors would not have any awareness around. We see it all the time in this community. Tell us what would be like a real kind of a good day for you, a win for you with your patients before you knew about lifestyle medicine, and contrast that with what would be like a good day or a good case after you understanding lifestyle medicine and recommending that kind of thing.
A good day for me before lifestyle medicine is when I discharged the patient from the hospital who came in with severe pneumonia, and we didn't think that he was going to make it. And he walked out the door. That would be a huge win. Fast forward lifestyle medicine, a good day for me is when people realize how much they can do, how much power they have over their future health, and they commit to doing some things. The light bulb goes off, and they commit to doing those things that could potentially reverse the diabetes, could potentially get them off of a statin, could potentially get them off of some, if not all, of the blood pressure medications. Because we're not just talking about whether or not you need the medication. We're talking about the potential long-term effects of high blood pressure. Can put you on dialysis, can give you a stroke, heart failure, heart attacks. And so when I think about what can happen once they adopt a healthier life, think that they're more likely to be around for their wife, their husband, their grandkids, their great grandkids. And they're not going to just be in a nursing home. I mean, we can keep people alive with science. Who wants to be kept alive in a vegetative state? Who wants to have a horrible quality of life? There's a lifespan. We can help people live a long, long time with a ton of drugs. And then there's health span. How much time you actually spend in health. And the goal is to optimize the health span.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the 6 pillars, which we're going to dive into, and you mentioned that they're all free. When you think about, if the medical industry were a business trying to make money, you would want somebody to be on those medications at a very young age, and you would want them to be on them for a very long lifespan. Like you said, like you can live a long time through science. We can keep people alive for a long time, but we can keep people very sick and demented and with type 2 diabetes for a very long time with all those, revenue creating things and procedures and all that stuff. So I don't want to get too tinfoil hat here, but yeah, it's very interesting when you're saying we found some things that are free, and let's dive into them. We can dive into whichever one you want to start with, if you want to talk about like whichever one has the most impact. But let's talk about the 6 pillars that you kind of talk about and recommend for your patients.
Certainly, the 6 pillars are a whole food, plant-based or plant predominant diet. Everybody is not ready to go whole food, and so if you don't want to go whole food, just make most of your plate fruits, vegetables, grains, herbs, spices, and so forth. And you certainly can have some meat on the side, and preferably some of the healthier meat, salmon, chicken breast, and so forth. And so, they talk about eat the rainbow. Just imagine a puzzle. Excuse me. All of these different pieces of the puzzle, they're shaped differently, but they fit into each other to create the complete puzzle. So a purple eggplant is not going to have the same nutrients as an orange or a red raspberry or a yellow squash. These different colors, they stand for something. They stand for different nutrients. And so if your idea of I eat vegetables, I eat French fries all the time, you're missing the vast majority of the chemicals, the phytonutrients, the nutrients in plants, the antioxidants, the things that can help you live longer, decrease your cancer risk, decrease your risk for diabetes, Alzheimer's. And that's one thing people don't understand. We don't have a cure for Alzheimer's, but now we know how to decrease the risk that you get it. And so a lot of these things, they are huge. They're very important. And I want to talk a moment about the diet. Charring food, when you cook food, it's not only what you cook, it's how you cook it. Avoid charred meats, because the charring, when you prepare food in such a way that you have the charring, you are creating these substances called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. Basically, it's these sugar, glucose sort of molecules that they get distorted and they get onto the fat and so forth. And they are linked to dementia. They're linked to diabetes. They're linked to some cancers. And so when you're eating meat, just be aware, keep flipping it. You don't want to put yourself in a situation that you eat these disease-causing chemicals day in and day out, because once you look back and you already have the dementia or you already have these other diseases, it's done. And so just be wise. The next thing is exercise. Medicine, movement is medicine. Movement can decrease your risk of diabetes, help you get off of some medications in many instances. Movement can decrease your risk of certain cancers. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar people will be surprised about is connections. Those meaningful connections, the hugs, the love, the shared meals. Your body releases this love hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin helps balance the effects of cortisol, which is that hormone that causes this rampant inflammation in your body. So just the love, the warmth, the connection, the shared meals, laughing, all of those things are associated with meaningful changes in your cortisol level, therefore your inflammation level. Sleep. We recommend 7 to 9 hours for most people per night. And fewer than 6 hours is more likely to cause problems with your cortisol balance, with your hunger hormones getting off balance. You may eat because it's there and not because you really need to. And then, we have the stress. So we talked about how stress can shrink the important parts of your brain and increase the size of the things you don't want. You don't want to be more of an anxious Nelly. And stress does a whole lot more. And then we have toxins, avoiding toxins. And one of those toxins is the AGEs that we talked about when you char meat. So we have alcohol, we have tobacco, but a lot of people don't realize when you shampoo your hair, you're introducing potential toxins into your body. When you drink water that's not filtered, or you're drinking bottled water and you have these microplastics, they're all around. And so you need to be aware, you need to get in the habit of reading the labels. And if you pick up something, household cleaner, and you can't pronounce all the ingredients, you probably don't need it. There's a website called EWG, environmentalworkinggroup.org, ewg.org. You can go there. I went there once with my shampoos, my toothpaste, household cleaners, and I sat there and I put these brands into their search engine and I pushed the button and they would say, it has this chemical that's an endocrine disruptor. Basically, with endocrine disruption, it increases disease risk, multiple diseases, gets your hormones out of whack. This is associated with asthma. This is associated with this. So if you go to that site, and you can even get an app, and you can learn what you are putting in your body, what you're putting on your body. I mean, something as simple as getting a tub of organic coconut oil from Amazon or someplace else. You can use coconut oil to cleanse your skin. You can use it in place of lotion, all natural. And there are so many things you can do, vinegar and water instead of some of the other harsh detergents. My husband just introduced me to this cleaner that it just uses steam. And so we used to get in these tiffs, when it was time to do the kitchen floor, because I'm like, I'm not going to sit here while you put these chemicals on the floor because I don't want to be exposed to them. And I'm not going to clean the floor with them. So either you use my water or something that I make, or you can do it yourself. And I said it in a loving way, of course. I adore my husband. But he saw this advertisement, and I actually bought this product that is a steam cleaner, hardwood floors, your clothing, it does the ironing for you. I mean, it does everything. And so if you are of the mindset, I want to make a difference in my life, there's so many options out there because now manufacturers are understanding people want safety. They don't just want these gimmicks, these great commercials, and then I find out a year later, oh, it's associated with cancer. They're learning to be wiser too. And so take advantage of that.
I love that. Wow. Can we just take that wonderful advice with the things that we use for cleaning and that we put on our body? If you can't pronounce it, you probably don't want it on your body or around your body. Can we apply that to food too? Like, are you
Oh,
amazed at the
absolutely.
ingredients in food these days are like so insane? You can't pronounce any of them.
Absolutely. That's why I was saying read the labels. My kids know if they go shopping, they're teenagers and they'll pick something up. Oh, it has chemicals. So put it back down. Because I jokingly say you're going to glow in the dark if you eat that. But we as adults, we've got to teach the kids so they can teach their children and so forth. We are putting all sorts of junk in our bodies. There are products sold in America that when they sell those products in Europe, they have to remanufacture it and take
Right.
out some of those chemicals because they're illegal in other countries, but they're still legal in the States. And so what you don't want to be in a position that you're making all of these manufacturers rich. So, the marketers say, use my product. Everybody's got to have it. And then the pharmaceutical company says, okay, now you have the disease, take my pill because now you're sick. We want to get out of that mindset of being bound by others' expectations. If we know that there is a safer, more natural way to do things, and those things can help us live longer, and we can teach our children so they can live longer, and we can be around for our great grandchildren, then we need to do those things. We need to take this up and move forward and not, just be so impressed by what the food manufacturers say. Something that a lot of people don't realize, a lot of food scientists know how to create foods, hyper palatable foods, with just the right combination of sugar, fat, salt, and all this other trash they put in it, that it tastes so good going down, we just keep wanting more and more. But that's because these messengers are going to the brain that are involved. They stimulate the same pleasure centers in the brain as those centers stimulated by sex. So yes, you want to eat more. The same pleasure centers stimulated by opiates. And you know about the opiate epidemic. And so they become very wise. They know how to create the foods you're going to want. And you're going to keep eating more and more. You're going to keep getting sicker. And then Big Pharma comes in and says, hey, I have the pills for this. And so we need to wake up and realize that we have the power. We as individuals, we can choose what we buy or we don't buy. And we're not going to be seduced into all of these fancy advertisements that make other people rich. And we end up taking money out of our retirement because we spend so much money on our healthcare expenses and visits to the doctor because we fell for it.
Yeah. No, I don't think most people realize that a lot of the cigarette companies, as cigarette smoking was kind of falling out of favor, ended up buying all the food companies and just ran the same play. You work on the 5 A's. You want to get people addicted. You start with age, younger ages, the advertisements. I'm forgetting a few of the A's, but yeah, they just ran the same play and figured out how to do it and be profitable
And
in
it
the food company.
worked.
And it
Look
worked,
at our
of course.
obesity epidemic.
Oh, of course, can't have just one, right? You mentioned the salt, fat, and sugar combination, the Dorito effect. Yeah, that's crazy. So the 6 pillars that you listed, I'm on board with all of them. I think they're all amazing. I don't think of one or the other or any of them as like one is more important than the other. I do think some are more controllable than others. And as you listed them out, would you consider them as like the priority? Different ways, or are they all equally important in your eyes?
I think to a significant extent they're equally important. Just imagine you open some spaghetti and you have all these straight pieces of spaghetti and then you cook it. And then you have the spaghetti is intertwined. That's how these pillars are. They stack upon each other. For instance, a whole food plant-based diet is going to be great for your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome impacts everything. The gut is like the second brain. It impacts your mental well-being, your depression, your anxiety, all sorts of things, your physical wellness. And then if you're not sleeping well, your cortisol level goes up and your hunger hormones get off and you may eat too much. And if you eat too much, then you're more likely to get all these diseases. But if you exercise, well, you can decrease your cortisol and you can decrease your risk of all of that. So basically, that's just the tip of the iceberg, but they all interact. And
Yeah.
so if you use all of these pillars, it's like it's not just 1 plus 2 plus 3, it's like 1 plus 10 plus 30 because of the effect of working together.
Yeah, got it. No, I agree with that. I think that's a great way to explain that. You mentioned a plant-based diet, and I would just say if I hear somebody like yourself eating lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of
Mhm.
whole grains, you look incredible. I've heard you say on podcasts you feel amazing. Clearly, your health is amazing. You know, as somebody who's been a carnivore for 7 years, I'm not
Mhm.
going to go out and tell you to change what you're doing. That would be like me driving a Volkswagen and saying, I really love my Volkswagen. Your Ford sucks. I hate your Ford. You should change cars. When you're like, no, I really like Ford. If it works, it works. It's amazing. And we agree on, 99% of things. Would you have concerns? I've asked this recently to somebody also who's very much in favor of a plant-based diet. Would you be concerned about somebody like myself at age 35? Essentially, I stopped eating all plants, all fiber, all vegetables. I have had really like not very much measurable amount of any of that. I'm 42 now. It's been several years. I feel the best that I've ever felt. Would you have concerns about somebody like myself who, for one reason or another, decided to try a very low carbohydrate, a very low plant based diet, and a much more like animal based diet? Would you have any concerns about that?
Yes. The younger you are, the fewer concerns I have. But now you're in your 40s. I mean, I have seen people with heart attacks in their 40s and 30s. So it's not just how you feel. You have to think about the cellular level. You can feel great, but on the cellular level, you may have some significant problems that just have not manifested yet. And so you are missing out on these substances that decrease your risk of cancer. You're missing out on these substances that decrease inflammation and oxidative stress and so forth. You're young. I'm a great grandmother. So you're a young man. And so you're not quite at that point that I'd be as concerned. But then, I mentioned that this diet can decrease your risk of dementia. I mean, there's so many things that you need to keep in order. There are people who they feel wonderful, they look great, and the numbers look great, but the numbers in the lab, they don't speak to what's going on in individual cells. And if the signaling between cells, the oxidative stress, the frequency at which things break down. For instance, telomeres, the ends of the DNA, the ends of your chromosome, when they divide, every time they divide, you're dealing with the telomeres. And over time, they're getting shorter quicker, then you might start having cognitive issues and other medical problems at a younger age.
Got it. Okay. And you mentioned it's tough to discern that from lab values. I've
Mhm.
gotten recently within the last year a CAC score to scan my heart to see, after years. And you mentioned proteins earlier, like salmon and chicken. Just to say, like on a carnivore diet, it's like fatty red meat, like ribeyes, steak, ground beef, butter is like eggs 90%, 95% of my diet. And the
Uh-huh.
CAC score came up as absolute zero. Are there any markers that somebody like myself, somebody listening, should be looking out for? Is there anything valuable there, or is it really just so far on a cellular level it's really not something that can be measured?
Well, one level is CRP, C-reactive protein. That gives you some indication about the amount of inflammation in your body. But so again, you are just in your early 40s. And so if you were to continue these things and then you're 65 years old, I would not expect you to have a coronary calcium score of 0 or things that look so good. Most people your age are going to have clean coronaries because you're still young. And so the issue is not today. The issue is, what is your goal for the future? So we know, you look great, you're young, you're healthy, but what is your trajectory? So you're here now. So you continue that. Your trajectory may be this way for health or this way for health in the next 20 years. So don't just focus on things look good now. Focus on, what can I do so I will have a long health span, not long lifespan?
Got
Because
it.
You know, you may live to be 80, 85 years of age, or even longer. You want as much of your brain to be functioning at peak performance as possible. You want to decrease your risk of cancer as much as possible. So what I'm hearing is all of these cancer fighting chemicals and so forth you're missing out on. Another thing is, a lot of people don't understand the field of epigenetics. And so some people say, well, you know, I have a predisposition. Mom had this, dad had this, and so forth. But most of the diseases that we have are not in your genes, they're in your habits. And so very few diseases are transmitted in a dominant fashion, meaning nothing that you do is going to impact it. Most of them basically are multifactorial. By that, I mean the environment plays a huge role in whether or not and how severely this condition manifests. So you may have a genetic predisposition, but you have essentially this switch in your cells. Each day, the decisions that you make move that switch toward disease or away from disease. And it may be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now before it manifests. But you don't want to go there and look back and say, oops, if I had done something different 20 years ago, I'd be going on a cruise with all these people instead of going to the hospital this week.
Gotcha. Okay, I really appreciate that. I wanted to ask you specifically. You follow a vegetarian diet. Again, different than what we do around here, which is totally fine. How are you thinking about combining different plant foods to make sure that you're getting things like adequate protein? I'm assuming that's a big priority. And which vegetarian, like animal foods, do you include in your diet personally?
I eat eggs. I eat eggs every day. Either egg whites or full egg. And my milk is mainly like soy milk and other things, but you'd be surprised. You can get all of the protein you need in a plant-based diet. Everything actually has protein. An apple has protein, just a small amount. Everything, all the plants, they have some degree of protein. Now you take out pinto beans, you take some soy, edamame. One of my favorite lunches is I will boil edamame and I'll put extra virgin olive oil on it, some Mediterranean sea salt. I mean, that to me is an incredible lunch, packed with protein. And so you don't have to be protein deficient just because you are plant-based, because the beans, certain grains, farro has a good amount of protein in it. But if you start reading the labels and you do a Google search, the high protein foods, you're going to get soybeans, you're going to get beans. I had this huge bag of pistachios, and my daughter came the other day. Oh, you have pistachios? I said, yeah, those are mine. You eat meat. This is my protein. So nuts, absolutely. You can get your protein very easily.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that. It's hard to talk about protein without talking about one of the other pillars that we mentioned, which is exercise. What types of exercise are you most likely to recommend to people?
Well, the national guidelines are 30 minutes 5 times a week, basically 150 minutes. You don't have to really do 30 minutes 5 times a week, but 150 minutes a week of moderate activity. By moderate, just imagine you're walking down the street with your friends and you're having this deep conversation and you're not huffing and puffing. That's not moderate. Think of 3 miles an hour or faster. And think of the other alternative would be 75 minutes of vigorous activity, like jogging, doing other things that, really get your heart rate up. So at least 150 minutes a week of moderate, or 75 minutes per week of, more vigorous activity. That's the baseline. And then you want to do strength resistance training 2 or 3 times a week. And so a lot of us work at home now. And, I do administrative medicine now, so I work at home. But there are things that you can do. I mean, oh goodness. I have my little weight here, and I can be on a conference call doing this. I have a treadmill under my desk. I got one of the desks that you can lift up. So I stick my treadmill underneath. It doesn't have the rails, and I can get in 30, 45, 60 minutes while I'm on my computer or I'm on the phone. And so you need to understand I mean, sitting is the new smoking. You can get out and play tennis 3 days a week. You do those binges on the weekend, 6 hours of TV, or even during the week, you're sitting for hours at a time. That still decreases your life expectancy. So you've got to keep it moving. So exercise is vital for everything from brain health to your joints and everything.
Yeah, no, I love that. And those intensities that you're talking about, as far as moderate intensities, when
Mhm.
I spent most of my career working on a metabolic cart, we would analyze where people burn fat most effectively, and it is
Uh-huh.
that kind of moderate curve where you're not necessarily huffing and puffing and dying, but you're moving. You're moving, with a little bit of vigor. Somewhere
Yeah.
around like a 5 out of 10 for difficulty is normally where most people are burning the most amount of fat. So I love those
Mhm.
recommendations. And I'm so glad that you brought up strength training. I couldn't agree more. I think if anybody were to choose one thing, that would be the one thing they could do. And you make it so simple. Like, you have a hand weight that you can lift. You could buy
Yeah.
resistance bands. This is accessible for teenagers. It's accessible
Yeah.
for geriatrics. Anybody can pull on a band and get a little bit stronger, and it will benefit you in so many different ways. Not just, building muscle, like most people think they're going to get super bulky when they do that. That's not the case. You'll just hang on to muscle. You'll build your bones. You'll make sure your metabolic rate stays high and you're burning calories all the time. So I really appreciate all those exercise recommendations. Do you find that you get a lot of pushback from people on any of the exercise recommendations that you make?
No, because people are starting to realize, people are tired of taking all these drugs. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And a lot of people, I've had people say to me, Dr. Hester, I can buy the pill or I can buy food. And now it's crunch time, it's all starting to make sense. And people want choices. People want power themselves, not just for the doctor to say, okay, here's the pill. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't. They don't take it, they may end up in the ER. They have these high bills. I mean, it's clicking. So, no, I don't get a lot of pushback.
That's good. That's awesome. We talked about connections, which I think is also very, very undervalued. What recommendations do you have for people in such a digital age, post-pandemic,
Yeah.
maybe who have been separated from loved ones, or are used to talking through
Mhm.
screens or that sort of thing? What kind of recommendations do you make about connections and how to increase those in people's day-to-day lives?
Just having a meal with family, that's important. Laughing actually decreases your cortisol. Sometimes I go on social media and I look at the corniest jokes and I just bust up laughing. And people downstairs are like, what is going on? I may put on, the oldies but goodies, Andy Griffith or the Beverly Hillbillies and just start laughing.
Those hold up.
You
They're
know,
still good. Those are
yeah,
still
they
good.
are, my teenagers, they're into that too. But just calling an old friend, laughing, talking, reminiscing, hugs matter, even getting a pet. I mean, I'm so crazy about my German Shepherd. My kids were jealous. I would stop. He was in the mud room basically when I got home from work and over to the hospital, and I would spend time with him before I went to the house with the family, and they were jealous. But he's so soothing. Just stroking his beautiful fur and looking in his beautiful eyes. It just really brings you down. And
Love that.
so there are so many things that you can do to improve connections, even getting out, walking around the park. My husband walks around the park a lot, meets new people. There's so many things that you can do. Strike up a conversation the next time you go to Starbucks. Just talk to people.
Yeah, I love that. We mentioned sleep as one of the pillars, and I'm going to frame this question maybe a little bit differently. We talk a lot about sleep hygiene and the things we need to do to create good sleep when it comes to nighttime. But I would say if you're starting to think about sleep at night, you're too late. You missed your
Mm.
opportunity, which was your waking hours. What things during the daytime can people remember to help them later on to get good sleep?
Stop drinking coffee around 2 o'clock or so. So don't drink a lot of caffeinated beverages. As far as alcohol, if you're going to drink a glass of wine or a beer or something, realize that it may help you fall asleep, but you're going to wake up. And so it relaxes you temporarily, but you have interrupted sleep. You're not getting that consistent, steady sleep when you go to bed after drinking alcohol. So you want to be aware of that. You want to know to turn down the lights. When it's time to get ready to go to bed, don't have all the lights glaring and then you flip the switch and you think you're going to fall asleep. Your brain probably is not going to work that way. So start dimming the lights. Do things to train your brain. Okay, now I'm preparing for rest. The melatonin could go up. That can help you get prepared physiologically for rest. Journal, take a nice warm bath, do those things that bring you down some, and your body is getting prepared for a deep sleep.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love that advice. When it comes to stress management, you mentioned the difference between acute stress and chronic stress, and
Mhm.
what stress used to be like in our evolution may have been something very temporary, probably not very often either. But now we're just exposed to so many things all day, every day. Everybody's working very, very
Yeah.
hard. You mentioned tapping as one strategy. Do you have any other favorite strategies as far as like chronic stress relief that you like to see people do?
Deep breathing. You can do box breathing. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a second, take a deep breath out, hold it for seconds. I mean, breathing, you can do that when you are driving down the street. You can do that at any time you're cooking. Deep breathing helps. One of my best stress reducer is actually getting on the treadmill or walking, going outside in nature, bathing in nature, huge stress reliever. And that lowers your cortisol. So being exposed to nature, the sounds, the smells, the beautiful birds chirping, all of those things can certainly bring you down. I like ashwagandha tea. I drink some chamomile tea sometimes. So there are various teas that are very relaxing. And so again, all of this stuff is natural. It doesn't cost anything. I mean, the tea is dirt cheap, but it's not like this ultra expensive thing that you got to do, go someplace expensive to get the stress release. No, you can do it at home. Get up, march in place. I'm starting to get into some Tai Chi. There are a lot of things that you can do at home for free.
Yeah, lovely. I love that. And you also mentioned one of the pillars being the toxins in our environment. I remember doing a certification nearly 2 decades ago. It was probably in 2007 that I took this lifestyle certification where they talked about
Mhm.
things like you really shouldn't use microwaves very often and you shouldn't store food in plastic. And, that there are things, chemicals in products, even like soap and lotion and the aerosol cans that spray fragrances in the house. I
Mhm.
thought this guy was absolutely nuts. I'd never heard any of that. I thought it was insane.
He was
Two
before
decades
his
later, I
time.
think like, wow, it was actually probably pretty good advice. My question
Excellent.
is to you: once you have stopped bringing those things in, you eliminate those things, you change to more natural skincare, household cleaning products. Are you ever surprised when you make that switch over, if you get exposed to some of that stuff, you're at somebody else's house and they're using, an aerosol
Yeah.
spray. Do you ever know, like, does it ever surprise you how much it affects you after you've eliminated it?
I don't do well with certain smells. And even I told you that my husband and I, until I started doing the steamer to clean the floors, I mean, he would use chemicals. I'm like, I can't. I don't even want to be in the same room with it. I don't react well to it because it just does something to me. I know if I'm smelling these chemicals and it's not like an apple or an orange, I don't need this. I don't need these smells. These things are not healthy. And so I have an adverse reaction to that. I don't like a lot of chemicals. I like the natural things. And there's plenty
Oh,
in nature that we can substitute things for.
like if I like pass somebody by who used to use the same brand of cologne that I used to wear or something, it's so overpowering. I can hardly handle it.
Yes.
And one of the hills recently that I didn't really want to die on was dryer sheets. I've cleaned up all of our household products, and I
Uh-huh.
use all the natural skincare stuff. I
Right.
my all of it. I do all of it. But the one thing, like,
Mhm.
I like my hockey stuff to get washed, and I don't like it to be staticky, and it smells nice if there's a dryer sheet. The last package of conventional dryer sheets I bought was off gassing a fragrance so strongly. I left it in the garage for a week and it still smelled up the entire garage. There was no way I could ever use it. They went right back to the store as a return. It was crazy how like sensitive you get to that stuff once you eliminate it.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
so
But
gross.
there's an alternative for almost everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's a great way to wrap up this conversation. There are so many alternatives that people can be thinking about. I think the awareness, I hope what you're saying about the awareness is correct. The more people are learning about this, the message is getting out, the more
Mhm.
doctors, if we were to talk to you in a few years, you would not say that you're in the 0.4% of doctors in this country that know about lifestyle
I hope
medicine.
so.
I hope this message gets out there, and you're a big part of pushing that out there. So we're certainly grateful for you and grateful for your message, Dr. Ann. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work? And, especially like on your website, what things do you offer people who go and check you out there?
So what I do on the website, my website is PTR. PTRreset.com. P is for prevent, T is for treat, R is for reverse. The pillars of lifestyle medicine are meant to help prevent, treat, and reverse a lot of diseases naturally. And so PTRreset.com is my website. And I have a free course. It's called the PTR Reset Sneak Peek. And people can go and they can sign up and they can get an overview of the 6 pillars. There's a quick motion graphics video on all the 6 pillars. But then if people want to take a deeper dive, there are other courses that they can take that are paid courses, but they can take the sneak peek for free. And actually, as of yesterday, I launched a series of free mini masterclasses. So a lot of people don't want to commit to an hour, but there are a lot of, I have 30-minute for 30-year masterclasses. So 30 minutes of investment will help catapult your next 30 years of health. So there are different times, morning, afternoon, evening, Sundays, different sorts of categories, and they can go and they can sign up for as many as they want. And, they'll get free guides and other things to go along with that.
It's amazing. What a resource you're offering people. I think that's awesome. We'll definitely link that in the show notes so people can go and find that and take advantage of your wisdom. Dr. Ann, like I said, thank you for this conversation. It's really amazing to meet other people out there who are discovering lifestyle medicine, finding ways to, really help people to heal and reverse disease, which is an amazing thing to say. So thank you so very much for all of your wisdom. And thank you for coming onto our show today. We really appreciate you.
It's my honor. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope that I'm able to impart a lot of wisdom to your audience. And again, I look forward to certainly linking back to your show. So I am going to wait until I get, until it's live. So people will learn about what you do as well.
No worries. That's very kind of you. So I'll send you, like I said, all the materials today.
Okay.
I will send you the raw Zoom footage. You can do whatever you like with that if you have a YouTube channel or want to use that for social media, as you said. And then also we'll be dropping.
Great.
Yeah, you'll get all of that.
Upload that to my YouTube channel. Great.
Yeah, of course. I do it every time I'm hosted on somebody else's podcast. I find that a lot of podcasts you listen to and you get to know the guests a lot, but you don't really get to know the host as much if they're doing the interviews. And so I'll always release those, on my podcast so people can get to know me and my story a little bit better. So feel free. You can do the same or whatever you want on YouTube as well. And then what else was I going to tell you? Yeah, I guess that's it. I'll send that all to you today, and you can use it whenever you like. We'll release the YouTube video, so I'll take this video, I'll just upload it to YouTube and chop the beginning and the end, and cut all like this part out, and that will drop the day before the actual audio podcast gets dropped. So it's like a teaser as a video, and then the audio will drop the next day. So anyway, I'll send all that to you later today. But for now, thank you so much for doing this. This is great.
Thank you, and you have a great day.
You too. Do the same. Get through the cold storm.
Oh, I'm going to try.